Welcome, everyone, to the Primarily Married podcast. This is a special limited series podcast hosted by me, Earrie Vaughn, and I'm here with my co-host, Jazznique. Today is just an introduction about our podcast, a way for you to get to know us, connect with us, and see what this is all going to be about. Thank you for tuning in today and joining us to listen. I have Jazznique here with me. I'm super excited that she's joining me for this podcast. I have a little bit of background with podcasting, but this is her very first podcast. So I'm excited that she took a chance, that she trusts me with her voice and all her beautiful, amazing insights that we're going to be shared throughout our episodes. So how did we meet? How did we meet? How did we get here? How did we get to this point of being like, we're going to do a limited podcast together?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, personally, like in work and outside of work, we kind of just like shared different little nuggets of information within like our lived experiences. And I think we started getting a little bit more like, oh, that's interesting. You experienced that as well? Right. Oh, okay. And so we, I guess got more, became more closer with each other. And then from there, we learned that we actually experience a lot of similar things around the same time periods. Right. And so we, from there we were like, let's talk about it. And then of course you were just like, let's do a podcast. And I'm like, so.
Yes, that's definitely what happened. So my perspective of things is definitely in alignment with what you shared. I remember our first conversation over the phone, and you were telling me about like you're separated and all this stuff, and I was just like, wow, she is sharing a lot. Like, first. I just don't know if that was that our first conversation. Yes, that was our first conversation. Okay. And I was like, okay, she's making me feel like she wants to be like, more intimate, connected, like outside of just like being colleagues at work or whatever. And I was like, that's cool. I feel pretty safe. You felt very safe. Like it felt very genuine and natural for you to just like share your testimony and like different things. And I was like, I think I could trust her. And so that helped me open up a little bit. And then that's when, like you said, so many things aligned between our experiences. I was like, this is weird, but also cool because now I have someone I could talk to about this. Because many of my friends, as you have learned, are never been married or they're still currently married. So it's just like, I'm just like the pocket divorced child in my friend group. So I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. And you have a spiritual background in Christianity, which was a huge component of our relationship. So I was just like, I like this chick. I could vibe with this chick.
Period.
Right.
The feeling is mutual. That's exactly my thought process. You don't meet a lot of folks in our age demographic, in the region in which we reside. Right. And just a lot of different little things, right? Our small little community within like our macro community, within our micro community, within the micro community, where it's like, oh wow, pandemic too? Okay, it got you too? Okay, so yeah, to your point.
Yeah, so that's how we like connected, and of course we've had plenty of conversations about our experiences. And I got to the point where I was like, other people need to hear this, especially because I really value your perspectives, and like you're literally a walking like intellectual, I don't know what to call you, but like
so sweet.
I was just like, you have a great insight, you have credible research that you do, which like for fun, which is so like inspiring for me. Like I'm always been like an avid learner, but not to that extent. And so I always look to you for like new facts and like research and findings around relationships and all the things, especially around Black history and culture and like Christian history. And I was like, other people need to hear this. And that's when I was like, we need to have a podcast so they can be on the end of our conversations. So what is Primarily Married? So originally we didn't want to name the podcast that. Originally we were going to name the podcast Singly Married because we had came across the concept and the definitions, and we're like, we felt like that in our marriage, right? We felt isolated. We felt lonely in our marriages. We felt misunderstood and like we were navigating life by ourselves. Especially for you as like I don't have children, but you're a parent, you're a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like on top of feeling all those within the marriage itself, but also like being like a single parent within your marriage as well added that extra layer of things. And so I was like, yeah, singly married. So that's what's looking at the name of it. I looked it up like 2 weeks ago. I said, dang, it's taken.
It's a hot topic.
Right. I was like, well, that shows that we're not alone in this, right? There's a lot of people out there who feel how we feel. And that's partially a good reason why to start this podcast too, because obviously there's a listener or audience out there who can resonate with this as well. Mm-hmm. So from there, I was just like, well, we're still going to talk about that concept, and a lot of the conversations are going to come up around how we felt in our marriage. So like that's still a theme, mm-hmm. right, of the podcast. But we needed another name. So I was just looking through Google and like just searching, and I found primarily married. And if you look on Google, there's tons of different definitions of what this may mean.
I was just like, what?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, you were so concerned.
Talked about, from what I saw, it was like it was almost like went into like the different like not necessarily single, but like, you know, primary marriage. This is your primary marriage, but then you can also have different, you know, different marriages within a marriage sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
like polyamorous stuff.
Yeah. I was like, what is
he was like, we're not projecting that image. But no, so our primary married it's much more aligned with singly married. So I'm gonna read through the definition that we're going to be guided by for our podcast. It's not going to be about polyamory.
Like you like it, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you know, what's it called? Don't yak nobody yum. Hey. We ain't yakking your yum, but it ain't us though. So basically, primary married basically means like, while the individual is legally separated, they may still consider themselves primarily married due to the fact that legally there's paperwork that still says you're married, right? Mm-hmm. There's legal bounds and barriers to like maybe getting a divorce or the proceedings of divorce. There's other reasons people might claim to be primary married where there is like an emotional connection. So I know a lot of times when divorce or separation, it's hard for people to disconnect emotionally or like heal emotionally, and that prevents them from like either filing for a divorce, or even when they're in the process of divorce, it keeps them from like even thinking about dating because they're like, I'm emotionally unavailable. So that's a way that someone can look at primarily married. Okay. Some people have shared experiences. I don't have this experience in a sense of like, I not a high school sweetheart. You are a product of high school sweetheart, but I'm not. But some people may feel like they experience so much life with the other person that they just can't fathom like not being with that person. So they're married to them, but they may be navigating like best friends, or like it might be like that type of relationship where like, oh yeah, we're separated, but everyone still see you as married because you still do everything together because you just have this like strong attachment to one another because of so many life shared experiences, you know. Okay. So that could be primary married. Social ties, so it might be like you're super attached to your spouse's family and friends, and so like they still of course see you as married because you're still always at the cookout, you still always at the birthday parties, the celebrations, graduations, whatever. Some people have primarily married because they still have hope for reconciliation, so they're hoping to work on their marriage and all the things. Okay. Some people are in limbo, so they're indecisive. They're like, I know I filed the paperwork, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to do how to move forward. You know, I don't know if I want to make something better out of this or if I want to end it. And then some people are married for the benefits of it. the tax write-off, the medical insurance, all those different things. These factors can all contribute to a complex and emotionally challenging situation, which is primarily married. While the individual may feel emotionally disconnected from their spouse, they may still be tied to the relationship due to legal, financial, or practical considerations. This can make it difficult to define a marital status and identity. So those pretty much is what we came up with as far as like what does primarily married mean for our podcast. So someone can fit into any of these buckets or multiple buckets, but like where do you feel like you fit in when it comes to like being like singly married or primarily married? Like which one of these like really resonated with you?
Is a great question. I think initially I probably fell in the bracket of like stagnation. So it was more so, well, I kind of...
Was it like the indecisiveness one?
Kind of, sort of, but not really. So I would say for me, it was, for one, it was, immediately it was this is what I'm going to do. But once, it's a process. I think it's a long process. Despite the fact it was really strange, like not to give like too much of like, too much of my information and, everybody else's. It was quite a journey. So I think for me initially I was like came out the door swinging. And then after that, I was like, filed and it was a rejection. And then it was like, okay, let me take a break for a minute. Because then it's like, is it being rejected because I need to slow down and, consult with God on this? Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, what's happening right now? Because I am moving 100 miles per hour. Right. So it was that. And so within that, I had to take a pause. Once I did get some of the things that needed to get done, because of course, like it was a little bit more of like the children added on and, and all the other things, right? Assets and stuff. So then it was like, okay, once some of those things were squared away is when I kind of like took a pause. And because I felt like I finally can take a pause and breathe and like exhale a little bit. Yeah. And now I'm at the stage to where I feel like I did pray on it a little more, just to ensure that that I'm not making the wrong mistake, right? And so I feel like I'm at a space and place where I know, right? And so, which is an amazing feeling, and I think right. I didn't rush it. I allowed it to like to take its course, to play it out, to to really, really strongly consider what that would look like for me. Yeah. And from there, now I'm ready to like continue the next trying what comes after it all, right? Yeah. To keep going, so that everything is copacetic. In the beginning, it was like just like
tunnel vision.
Straight tunnel vision. It was like nope, right? And so from what you just listed, social had to probably play a role as well, especially considering my own upbringing, and just the idea of wanting my children to also experience the same, similar to like growing up in a 2-parent household, right? Those types of things. So that social pressure was real for me. So I definitely fell into that category. I would also say that what I gathered from that as well is it got to a point where I was like, okay, like these people, like, so like, am I pleasing men or am I pleasing, you get what I'm saying? Like, who am I pleasing? Right. Let's see.
They're not gonna be the marriage.
Exactly. Right. And so, yeah. So at that point, once I got over that hump, that was when I was tunnel vision, right? And then after that, there was a feeling of perhaps there can be some, reconciliation. And so I entertained the thought, And then I continued to all while continuing to pray, because what was happening too for me for so long was that sometimes I would be so stagnant because I'm like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know which move to make. And it created like pressure, anxiety in a sense, which I know was not right, you know? And so I was like, well, let me just continue to move my feet and see and continue to pray, right? And see what happens in a sense, right? And that's what I did. And as I continued to move and not necessarily trust my sight, but like just lean into my faith, I felt that I was seeking and knocking, and I was getting the answers.
What's like keeping you from finalizing the things? You think it's like a legal barrier?
Yeah, now it's definitely like legal barrier, right? And just time, right? Like I said, it got to a point because there's different layers to it, right, depending on like again like your assets, kids, right? And so I got to a space and place where I felt like I could kind of breathe a little bit. And so that's where I was at for the longest time, and I was okay with that. I was accepting to that until relatively recently, and then I was just like, okay, And so to answer your question, it was the legal.
I would say, to your point of sharing, like you went through kind of different phases of this throughout your process. Mm-hmm. I feel like I probably did too. Like definitely the social ties and the social pressures. Definitely the emotional connections, sort of low key, because it's just like you get to that point of like, I gotta start all over again. Oh, yeah, that's real. That was a thought, like, dang, I gotta develop a relationship. I gotta care about somebody's favorite color. Like, I gotta learn a new person. But part of what got me out of that mindset was like, you know who Kevin Stage is?
Yeah.
So him and his wife had a podcast called The Love Hour. Mm-hmm. Great podcast. Loved it. And something he's shared in that podcast, and he continues to share like in different interviews they've done as a couple, is that he has to like relearn his wife mm-hmm. every few years. Yeah. And we'll probably talk about this a little bit more in another episode, but I'm just like, okay, that was going to happen anyway. if I would have stayed in this relationship, like I was going to have to sort of kind of learn a new person every 6 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I was just, that got me out of that mindset of like feeling like, oh crap, I gotta start over. Like, well, you're gonna have to start over either way. Mm-hmm. So but yeah, I went through that process too, but I feel like right now it's definitely a legal barrier. Like that's just where I'm at right now. That's how I'm primarily married legally. Yeah. I'm married, and everything else is just like nothing. Yeah. Irrelevant. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, y'all, this has been the first episode of Primarily Married. Hopefully you got to know us a little bit more, a little bit better. We just want to just introduce ourselves and like talk about what we were gonna, what's gonna be about. Like I said, it's a limited series, so it's only gonna be a few episodes. I hope y'all tune in for the next upcoming episodes. We have a lot to dig and dive into. I'm excited to share, excited to learn, because I'm always learning when I'm talking to Jazznique. Always learning something new. She always corrected me, and I appreciate the love, the correction and love.
The feeling is mutual. I learned so much from you as well, so thank you.
So, but yeah, we're wrapping up. But yeah, tune in for our next episode. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. And you can find us on another platform. What's the name of it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Black platform. It's a platform for a Black podcast. It's going to be in the description. Y'all can find it there. I'm going to get it together, y'all. Don't worry. But yeah, do you want to say something before we sign off?
I'm learning as I'm sitting here listening and learning as you speak. Okay. I'm excited, though. I'm definitely excited. I appreciate you for just seeing me and trusting that, like, girl, you got something to say. Get on this podcast with me. Like, I appreciate it. So.
Yeah, this is the first of many.
So speak it on into the universe.
I am.
Earrie Vaughn.
This is just a little to get your little toes wet.
That's funny.
But yeah, thanks y'all for tuning in. The next episode will be up next week. And yeah, peace out.
Peace.